Hi, it's Ileana here at Awakening Cosmic Reality Show, and we have David Lotherington with us today. Hi, David. How are you?
Hey, how you doing? I'm great.
Good. David is a channeler. He channels extraterrestrials. He's also a healer. He does galactic Reiki. He does energy healing. He also does implant removal. He does DNA infusions with different extraterrestrials. And what other things do you do, David?
I do Akashic Records readings. I do some mediumship work for people, entity removal, I think you mentioned that, psychic surgery, chakra balancing, stuff like that.
And what is your website?
It is www.davidlotherington.com, and we can put it in the description below.
Excellent. And today is kind of different and special in the channeling. Can you describe why?
Well, you came to me about a week and a half ago, I believe, perhaps a little bit less. And William Tompkins said he wanted to be channeled. That's my understanding. So
yes, he's an ex-Navy. He came forward about 3 years ago to disclose about the secret space programs, particularly Solar Warden, and that he helped to design the different ships for Solar Warden, for what would become Solar Warden in the 1980s. And William Tompkins also developed some naval ships here on Earth, and in secret some of those Solar Warden ships. As well, he had contacts with the Nordics. He worked for TRW, North American, and other companies that researched UFOs and designed reverse engineered craft. So that was William Tompkins's role. He also got to hear some of the US spies come in and talk about the Nazis that they saw in Germany and what they were developing in craft, UFO craft. So that's kind of the background on William Tompkins. He was an insider, and then he died at the age of 94 several years ago, kind of under perhaps mysterious circumstances, something about a blood tumor and potentially being poisoned because of what he was planning to come forward with. So that's kind of what he psychically told me when he contacted me, that he had been poisoned. But I'm not sure about that. That's what he told me. So that's what I know about what he said, how he died.
So just a little precursor to everything. I haven't looked this guy up. I don't know anything about this guy, just to keep the channeling as pure as possible. And if whatever information comes forward, and the intention is to set the highest good for whoever's listening and to get the best information possible. So.
Yeah, and we're mainly trying to figure out what he did with his career concerning the Solar Warden ships, designing them, about the Nordic secretaries, what he was doing with the Nordics, that kind of stuff. That's mainly what the channeling is for.
Sounds good. Mm-hmm. So it's just going to take me a moment to center myself, and then we'll see if he comes forward.
Okay.
Greetings. Hello. Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Hello. Is this William Tompkins?
Yes, it is.
Nice to see you, William. How are you?
Very good. I am very comfortable here now.
Excellent. I believe you had talked to me telepathically about wanting to be channeled today.
Yes, this is true. There is much information that must be relayed over to many rather than just few.
So please share whatever information that you wanted to relay to us.
Very good. There is much that is to be covered, and only a short period of time to cover it. So I will begin at the beginning.
Go ahead.
In the late 1930s, approximately 1938, they began a program. In this program, there was development with searching for particular names. We will say black operative groups within the American government. It was a series of connections that have been established from Europe to America, to England, and we would say to expound upon Europe, parts of Russia. These groups, which were associated and held by particular individuals who held claim over all of these groups, we would say only a few members of the human collective were in control of many of these groups. So at the top, they are all connected. So we continue. Now, many of these groups that were associated with each other, they were able to grow and shine. The protocols that, very well, this communication, this protocols that we were referring to, it had all the walls before it dropped. These walls, which we are referring to, are ethical boards, morality, things of this nature, they were all dropped. Moving forward, these groups that were connected and associated together, they were allowed to perform whatever requirements they had to establish what they had designed to do. Now, the Russians were responsible for telemetry and figuring out the way that the craft would be projected into space. There were the Americans, which were designed to formulate weapon systems. There were the English, who were designed on propulsion. And there are components of the Chinese, which were also operating within this group. And they were designed with materials of the crafts that were to be created. Now, all things come from subtle beginnings. And in subtle beginnings, it takes many to create one thing. And in this thing, each team specialized on its own specific function. And they came together to create this unified force. This unified force was, well, we should explain. The Earth, although much has changed, is connected by a series of tunnels. These tunneling systems allowed beings from China to Russia at this time. And there was also avenues from going from America to Canada underground at this time as well, which connected those groups associated with these programs so that they could exchange information easier, as at this time there was no cell phones. There was little communication at all, in fact. So we hope you understand times are different now. Mm-hmm. Do you have any questions so far?
Yes. What were these groups called, and what were these ships that were being built?
Well, each group had its own particular association. We would call them China Division, Russia Division, America Division, England Division, things of this nature. And there were parts that came from Canada as well, even.
Okay.
Now, one must understand that the whole world has been working together for this unified mission. And this is for the greater good of the world. This was the image that was portrayed to these companies. As if this did not take place, then they worried for the planet's security.
And what was this unified mission?
The unified mission was to establish a colony outside of our atmosphere that will allow for the survivability of the human populace.
And where would this colony be established? Would it be Moon, Mars?
At the time, the goal was to just enter the atmosphere and beyond. Now, we did not know as much about space as we hoped we would know. And our experience with non-terrestrials was limited, though we had some higher forces helping us along the way. Now, back in the day, we will say, the 1938 experience, this was a time of limitation, and things began to progress rather rapidly as the resources began to accumulate and gather between all of these countries together. Did you have a question?
Yes. So what kind of vessel were all the groups building? What shape was it? Design? What engines?
Oh, very well. We would say that the first craft that was created, it was a large triangular shaped craft, not far from what you have experienced in your Star Wars program. This is the oldest model of ship that they have on this, we would say, size classification. And because of this, it is limited by its propulsion system, its life support system, its ability to establish itself from the platform, the dense gravity of the planet, and things of this nature. Although things have been taken into accord, the limitations of gravity and thruster capabilities, humans still had issues with this at the time. So we needed help. And in this help, we found it. We found it through connections with non-terrestrials. There were Greys, there were Nordics, there were Yael, there were even reptilian beings who assisted us in this collection of technologies that we were required to put together this system which we were creating, which took many years.
And what was your role in building the newer ships for Solar Warden? What was that like?
We would classify the newer ships as the 1950s, perhaps 1954.
And what were those ships like? Can you describe them, please?
Yes, there were many models at this time. Understand that it took us several years to get off the ground, one might say. But once we did, we had established connections as we became worthy of this connection to others who are also in space-faring societies. Now, because of this, we assimilated many craft. These craft had scout ship technologies, as you are familiar with, and also there are craft that are designed from a medical perspective, which they are tailored to being medical ships and things of this nature. Now, our mega craft, we will call it for now, this is the first vessel. This first vessel was our greatest creation to this day. It had been such a magnificent creation, as it was a conglomeration that, and understanding that humans can work together to create something great and wonderful in the world. But there was greater to come. So these establishments, these, we would say, scout craft, medical craft, and warships that we have seen and also assimilated knowledge from, we are just moving, one moment. We decided to, we would say, we are seeking a term, assimilate the technologies of all of these craft and create one mega craft, we will say.
Mm-hmm.
And this created our first dynamic ship, which was able to have proper propulsion systems, was able to leave past the moon, past the belt, yes, the Van Allen belt, as this was a limitation for us for some time. And we required technologies to move past this point and permissions from the galactic councils. Do you have another question?
What was your role with the Nordic secretaries when you worked with them at TRW, North American, McDonald and Douglas?
Yes, we do recall such things. Now, the Nordics are beings of, we do not want to just put them into one space, but they are beings of war and they are beings of peace. But they have great warriorship abilities. We say warriorship as in that is their personality to be a warrior rather than a warrior ship. Please understand. Now, as we connected with them, there were beings that were high up in our government, which were included within this connection. There were a series of private associations which were hired to do work with these individuals. initially through the means of channelers, telepaths, and those with clairvoyant abilities and audient. But as time passed, the Nordics became established with the humans. They knew that they could trust the humans to a means to do something, as humans are rather predictable. So they decided to meet in person. And from that moment forward, many things changed. The technologies that the Nordics gave to us in exchange for not just clothing, but also Earth technologies, which may seem primitive, you may think, but Earth genetics and species, we would say, interspeciations, which are not accessible to Nordics on a normal basis, were highly prized by these groups. And because of this, they enjoyed the trade, we would say. It was favorable for them, as genetics have great value in the system.
So what was your involvement with the early secret space programs that the US Navy and military had created for the moon and Mars?
Well, I had many roles, you must understand. But one of my primary roles was the creation of a blueprint, a master print. And that print, which was to be created and sent to all these, we would say, 5 groups that we mentioned. Now, this was a difficult task. This was my life's work. This was, if you imagine Tony Stark in a cave, creating templates that did not look like anything when apart, but when together created a unified object. This was the challenge of my life, and something that I am very proud of to this day.
So what was in the blueprint itself? What was it?
It is the creation of the megacraft, as we said before.
Mm-hmm. And how was this megacraft powered? What was the propulsion systems like, and what did it look like?
Well, as we stated before, it was a dark triangular shape. It was approximately 3 miles long by 1 mile in the rear. So our propulsion systems varied throughout the craft. They were not unified. There was different technologies required on the sides that were not required on the rear of the craft. So primarily our propulsion systems were on the rear, but there were we are looking for terminologies within the channel, but we are limited, as he is not familiar with the physics of these engines. We would say they are anti-propulsion biometric systems, something of this nature.
Anti-gravity?
Yes. Now, it was required that we had these anti-gravitational, they're not beams, but they are channels of energy that were established upon the sides of the triangle of the ship. Now, this would serve many purposes. Upon the starboard side of the ship, it is required to have these lines that run up the triangle of the ship, we will say. It is difficult to explain, but we will do our best. Now, these lines that run up the ship, they are massive in size, you must understand. They are anti-gravitational and they repel debris before it touches the craft. And all of these fields, all of these lines come together to create a force field, which will cover the ship and protect it from space debris and things of this nature. So, as far as propulsion goes, we did have fusion engines at the time. This is an older technology that the humans initially established, which was great enough for us to enter the space atmosphere. But approximately 6 months to 10 months later, we had a new system in mind. Now we needed to retrofit the engines because of this new system. It was far superior, approximately 500% more efficient. So it was required that we had to make these changes. But we decided to keep our original craft at hold as it was because of the resources that were invested in it to create. So we decided to create a new craft, and we did this aboard our current ship.
And what was the new craft like, and could it go beyond the speed of light?
We were not yet at this juncture of our development, but there were engines that could go quite fast, and we began to understand how to bend reality and how to bend space, but we did not yet understand this concept. Many ships were lost of the scout shape. We apologize. The scout format and design. And we put these jump drives into these small craft, and many were lost, unfortunately. It is a terrible tragedy because not only the members that perished during these tests, but also the metal is quite rare upon Earth, anyway, for the scout ships.
So in your career, did you design any vessels that did eventually go beyond the speed of light?
Yes, we eventually came across a race which was willing to share such technologies with us. Now, in order to understand this technology, this moving beyond the speed of light, one must completely change the way that things are designed. We must completely change our understanding of limitations. As humans, as you must understand, early in their development, in the 1944 time, roughly, to 1948, we would say, we believed that the triangle was the most efficient shape for space travel. Now, we were quickly dismissed when we spoke to many species about this design, as they understood that we were limited by our understanding and knowledge of physics itself. What we knew had to be redesigned and recreated as new formulas began to come together within our understanding. And all of our dreams to invest into this primary ship fell flat as we were unable to retrofit so many new pieces onto our older craft. We had only intention to create new craft from that point forward that had, we did not have these same limitations as we did before.
So what were the new craft like that you created? What were the engines, the shapes?
Well, there were many models, you must understand. Now, there were our scout crafts. These were designed to visit the moon. They were designed to visit other orbital planets that had existed within the system of Earth, and asteroids to mine minerals and things of this nature. So they came in a significant amount of shapes and sizes, as humans are excellent engineers. And as they upgrade, they enhance things, and they naturally evolve technologically quite quickly, more quickly than many other species, you must understand. So for this reason, we had many different designs and models that were created. But one craft that was of primary functionality, we will say, is the cigar-shaped craft. Now, it is not a perfect cylinder, but it is somewhat of an oval and a cigar combined. Now, with this shape, this design, this has been given to us from a reptilian group. We were able to move faster. We were able to cloak our ships. We were able to go places beyond the threshold of where we were allocated before. And because of this, we were able to find new resources that we were not otherwise able to access. And with these resources, we built new craft, and so on and so forth.
When you psychically contacted me, you said that your passing on Earth had been potentially of a mysterious nature because you were going to disclose something important, that somebody was after you and potentially you were poisoned. What was that all about?
Please understand, a man on his deathbed is a very dangerous thing, and especially a man on his deathbed who knows much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was creating a deathbed confession, as one might understand. Now, this deathbed confession contained information on blueprints, on group names, on individuals who are connected to these programs. It was a full disclosure, one might say. And this did not come to pass, unfortunately.
So did somebody poison you, or what happened?
I do not wish to endanger anyone here who is taking part in this voluntary procedure to disclose this information.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, I understand. So you were getting ready to disclose something important, and that's a pivotal factor because that was part of your life's work and career. Yes?
Yes, very
Okay.
much.
Okay, very good. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us today?
Yes, of course, there is much to learn.
Please continue. Whatever you would like to share, we are very interested in.
Very well. We would like to speak of the Nordics some, if that is okay.
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
Very good. These beings, these individuals, they are an interesting species, we will say. We had some experience working with them on a personal level, and they are hard on the outside, and we do not want to say soft, but softer on the inside. They are like a burnt marshmallow in nature. And when you initially meet one, you are initially challenged by their rapport, by their conviction, by their stance itself. And their energy teems upon you like a wave crashing upon a rock. So this was a wonderful experience for me, as it was my first time meeting a non-terrestrial species. And to meet one of such great prowess was such an experience for me. Now, I've come to love these beings, these Nordic males and females, although I primarily worked with a male. Now, his name was Yoma, he would call himself. Now, Yoma was an engineer by his race. So he understood things that I understood, and I understood things that he understood. And we shared this commonality, this brothership, one might say. And because of this, we had previous connections in other lives. We shared this wonderful bond. Now, because of this special camaraderie that we established due to past lives and things of this nature, we were able to go further than we were supposed to go. Now, he helped me with many things, primarily the blueprint. Now, the blueprint was so complicated that I was not able to do this by myself. Even though I had a team of people, approximately 40 people working with me, there were things that only my friend and I knew. And because of this, we were kept on the program. Understand that there were people that were cut from the program because they were not suitable, they were not loyal, they would disclose information or attempt to, and they were terminated from the project. So it is important to note that one must always have a piece in the back for security. And this knowledge was my piece to secure my position within this experience.
Mm. And what was the reason why you contacted me psychically to do the channeling through David?
Well, one must understand that we are here. We are alive. Actually, we have a physical body, but we will not disclose our form. But we wanted you to communicate with the channel. Now, we understand that information can come through telepathically, but telepathy has limitations, as it is a lighter form of channeling, if one may think this way. And because of this, the concentration, the percentage of energies that are allowed to come through are limited in this nature. As a channel, one is able to take part and take hold of most of some beings and some of some, to truly understand and comprehend the essence, which is that of the being who is to be channeled. So this is why we extended our voice to you, so you may communicate with the channel. Although there were others that were eligible, we chose him.
Yes, David is very respectful and responsible, so he was a good choice. What was your connection and dealings with the Reptilians? Because you had mentioned several times that you also had contact with Reptilians.
Yes, this is true. We would state we also chose the channel because he is protected. This was the primary reason. He is fully protected by his communication above. Now we will say this and only this. Now, about the Reptilians. So, as you understand, my journey began a long time ago. And it was approximately 10 years after my connection with the Nordics that we established the connection with the Saurian people. These Saurians were similar to the Nordics in their prepositions, in their somewhat similar behaviorisms initially. The hard exterior and the soft innards, but the innards were not so soft. So it was something for me to come to terms with within myself, that this was a possible experience of life. They were completely different than anything that I had expected. Their knowledge of math was astounding. Their ability to comprehend numbers and telemetry was just beyond imagination. The human mind is so different from them in the way that they work, angle, and direct information and move it throughout their mind and consciousness, that many of the concepts that they were portraying upon us, and me specifically, I did not understand. Even with all of my knowledge of the entire craft, many of the crew were still not able to comprehend the predilections of these beings. So we would like to say we admire them greatly. They have great potential. They have great ability, and they are very kind to assist us. And they did assist us much in the development of the craft.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
What would you like to speak about, Dawn?
Anything that stands out in your career, in your life, that you would like us to know about, that made you special, that made you who you are?
This is an interesting question. What made me special? Well, we would say, like Nikola Tesla before me, we shared a mind that could create things in our mind before putting it on paper. Now, this ability came in handy, as you can understand, creating blueprints. The blueprints were designed as much as possible in the mind before putting to paper. And in this creation, this complex nature was helped and assisted by those of a telepathic nature. Understand that I had many connections, not just physical connections, but also beings that were communicating with me to help us become a space-faring civilization. For those who desired humans to stretch their arms out and flap their arms a couple times to see if they could fly. Initially, it was a humorous result. But given time and direction and resources, humans have great potential to do great things. And in this greatness, they found it as they have moved forward within this secret space program and their development across the galaxy at this time.
And early on in your career, you had mentioned that the US spies had come back from Berlin in Germany and that they had discovered that the Germans were making their own UFO craft with assistance of other ET species, that you had participated in these meetings where the spies were telling the information and bringing back the information. What was that like?
Yes, understand that, as stated before, there were many who defected within a collection of individuals who are blueprinting. Now, as I stated before, it was required that I had some special piece, so I was not disposable. But there were those who did make it out of the program. Those who did have connection to information that was important at many levels. And many of these defected to this Germany and other places, in fact. There was others that defected to America as well. Now, one may say that, we apologize, one moment. Very well. That we are all on the same team, but this is not necessarily the truth, as many nations were united at a front, but there were those who wanted their own slice of the pie. And in this way, they found the blueprints to our craft. And they took much of its design and understanding that has come from the Nordics and Saurians and Yael and other beings who helped us along our way. And they ran with it. And they did what they could, only limited by human life. So understand what one is up against when they are willing to sacrifice everything, what one can achieve.
So the Germans had spies in the US facilities as well?
Yes. In almost every facility, from England to China to Russia to America and even to Canada.
Was NORAD part of these programs to help design the vessels?
No. They had their own design in mind. Now, at the top of the pyramid, those who are driving this program understand that there are mothers and fathers, and there are cousins and distant cousins. Now, this NORAD group was somewhat of a distant cousin, or perhaps first or second cousin to us. Now, we mean this not to confuse you, but to say that they were not connected to the primary resources which we were connected to. And because of this, they had to go their own way to create such things and such technologies. They may have heard whispers, technology being shared, whispers of what we were doing, but they did not know what we were doing.
Mm-hmm. So NORAD is in Cheyenne Mountain. It's Canadian/United States aerospace initiative to protect the airspace. So do they currently have any flight propulsion spaceships?
Flight propulsion.
Yes. So do they have their own secret space program?
Not yet, but we will say that there is a program in development at this time. They are currently working on propulsion systems. Now understand, this is a large hiccup that many face, is the propulsion. Propulsion is very, very important, and it is most important to leave the planet. This is why it is so difficult. But as time develops, technologies are passed down to future generations and things of this nature. And these hand-me-downs that occur, they sell for massive amounts of resources. And we say resources rather than money, because money is not really relevant at this stage of progression. So.
Is there anything else important that you would like to share with us at this time that has meaning to you and that you want us all to hear in your message?
Yes. We would like all of you who are listening to know that humanity has done some wonderful things, and we have accomplished great tasks. And in these great tasks, we have had issues. We have had hiccups. We have had obstacles put in our way. And these obstacles have been overcome. Humanity has a great ability to overcome obstacles. Now, we want you to know that there will be things in your life as an individual that will block you from what you want. It is important that you do not surrender to this block, but move around it. But move through it or under it. Find a way around. Now, humans as a whole, from a macro perspective, they are great engineers, some of the best in the galaxy, one must understand. Because we do not settle. We continue to grow, we continue to learn and expand, and we are quite relentless, like a colony of ants even. Very similar, actually. So we would like to say to all of the people listening to continue on your mission, move forward in your development, continue to grow, continue to shine, help others as you can, find your way over the rock. Sometimes it takes more than one person. That is it.
And one final question. What do the ships look like now? Like the ships that you designed that could go beyond the speed of light, how are they implemented in the secret space program and Solar Warden and planetary corporations now?
How are they incorporated in it?
Yes.
Well, there are particular designations for particular craft. There are crafts that cannot move at the speed of light, the older models, even the moderate aged models. But the craft that were created after the 1970s, we would say, yes, they have new technology that enables them to do very grand things. So if you imagine a dartboard, and in the center of the dartboard is our initial ship. It is allowed only so far, it can do only so much, but it is still our basis, even though there are greater ships now. Now, the second ring, not the bullseye, but the one next to that. This ring is the next generation of craft after that. And they can go further than the initial craft. They can do more, they can see more things, and so they can go farther out into space. Now, subsequent generations of future craft are able to go further and further and further until you reach the end of the board. Now, the end of the board of the dartboard, we apologize, is like our galaxy. Now, there are also craft who are able to enter wormholes and rifts and things of this nature. Now, they are able to move off of the dartboard and find another dartboard. And they are the generation of the 1970s. So, does this help?
Yes. What is currently out there beyond even the 1970s craft? What are the newer craft capable of doing?
Well, Many of the craft are capable of doing many things, so understand that this is a difficult question to answer in a linear way. So, as far as weaponry goes, they are bending light and expanding it, which causes an explosion. We would say explosion, but it is perhaps a disruption in space. Now, as far as showers go, a simple turn on of the light allows one to become clean. The regeneration tanks are beyond what you can imagine, I am sure. Perhaps not yourself, but others. As you are able to regenerate a being from only a cell or two. So this is beyond understanding of some humans at this time, but this is the most advanced technologies that are around. Our shielding uses space itself to protect itself from space, energy weaponry, asteroids and things of this nature, and also energetic entities which exist within the system of the galaxy. So there are many different ways that I can go upon this question. So understand, we apologize for my limited answer.
Oh, very good. Those were some of the things I was actually interested in, so you touched upon them. Are there colony ships that can hold millions of people traveling to other galaxies within the SSPs?
We would say there are colony ships able to hold millions of people, yes. But the limitation of moving to other galaxies is only in smaller craft at this time. We would say smaller than millions of people. But we would say hundreds to thousands of people they can still hold. Now, because of the design of the engine, it is only possible to withhold a field which is large enough to surround thousands of people, we will say. Because of the limitations of our technology at the time, we are limited to this. But in the future, perhaps we will move millions of people to other galaxies.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, William. I appreciate you answering all of my questions, and I thank you very much for coming through David Lotherington and choosing him as the channel to speak through today.
We are honored and pleasured to be able to express our message as fully as we have, and that we hope to speak to you or perhaps anyone else in the future to continue with our disclosure, to continue with our helping of the people of the earth, to understand that you are not an earth-based society and people. You are more than that, and there is so much more that you cannot comprehend at this time that is in your experience, but is only invisible to you.
Oh, thank you, and I appreciate you coming in, and I think this is good for today for the session. Would you agree?
Yes, I would also agree.
Excellent. So again, many thank yous, and I hope you are doing well on the other side.
Thank you very much. And we love you all, and please continue with your work.
You as well. Have a good day.
Very well. Goodbye. All right.
Yes, that was very interesting. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
He had a lot to say.
I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, we talked a lot about many things, why he contacted me telepathically, about his life, even what happened after death. He had some things to say about that and some things he didn't want to discuss, which is fine. But he got everything he pretty much wanted to get through in this session. So I think very good.
Great.
So thank you. I hope you have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.